Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast. As you can see, I'm back in front of the green screen just temporarily. I needed to actually change the opening because I have a kind of a last minute guest, Chris Gallizzi from Hyperkin, which is pretty cool that he could jump on and do an interview, especially after my review of the new Hyperkin Retron 1 HD. So I guess we'll see how that goes. But also we have the news and the Q&A as normal. And I continued to mess around with my camera setup at the office, and it got worse this time. So I'm just going to go back to using the webcam temporarily until I find a more professional solution. I'm just trying to be cheap about it because I don't want to drop a couple grand on camera equipment, especially because my videos are never going to be as good as like My Life in Gaming. So I just need it good enough, but I don't like the way webcams look. This is all pixelated and weird. So anyway, on to the news, and stay tuned later for the interview. First up, I just reviewed the Retron HD, the HDMI outputting NES. It's only $40, but overall the quality is absolutely terrible. I think, I could be wrong, but I think it's just the same composite video NES they've always had with an HDMI upscaler built in. So, yeah, I don't really recommend it, but if you're interested at all, check out the review. The SNES Classic was just officially announced, and it looks like it's going to be releasing for $80 on September 29th, and I'm just going to assume it's the same Linux emulation that was on the NES Classic. I can't really get too excited about it because I'm sure it's not going to live up to what I would hope that it would be, but I'm going to try to buy it anyway just because I kind of have to review it. The one thing that's kind of interesting is that it's going to have Star Fox 1 and 2. And the reason that's interesting is this is the first time they're going to be emulating the FX chip. So I think the only reason it didn't before was legal issues or something, but also because of Star Fox 2. So will they just dump the ROM onto it? Will they work on it at all? Will they increase the frame rates? I'm going to assume that they're going to take the path of least resistance, but I guess we'll see. I'm going to run through the list of games quickly just for people that are interested. Contra 3, Donkey Kong Country, Earthbound, Final Fantasy 3, F-Zero, Kirby Superstar, Kirby's Dream Course, Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, they damn well better have had that game on there, Mega Man X, Secret of Mana, Star Fox 2, Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting, and then a whole bunch of games with the name Super in front. Super Castlevania, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Super Mario Kart, Super Mario RPG Legend of Seven Stars, Super Mario World, Super Metroid, Super Punch-Out, and Yoshi's Island. So this is just a stark reminder of how unoriginal their marketing was. Everything had Super in front of it. But, as soon as I get it in, I'll review it. There's also going to be a Famicom version, which is kind of neat. Or, the Japanese-looking version. So, I'll review it when it comes in, but nobody get their hopes up. Next, I received the Neo Geo Pocket ROM Cart. I'm very excited about it. I haven't even taken it out of the package yet. I want to do a full review of it, which I'm going to hope will be done by the end of this week because it should be a very short one. But I just wanted to let everybody know that it came. So if you put your order in, you should probably expect it pretty quickly. And just by looking at it, it looks to be in a really high quality 3D printed shell with a cool label. So more info on that very soon. Next, the makers of the RGB-Pi posted a pretty cool video on how their SCART head is laser engraved, and while it's not really an update or a technical thing, I just thought it was awesome and really wanted to share it with everybody. Next, Sega just launched something called Sega Forever, which allows you to download their classic games on mobile platforms for free, and then if you'd like to remove the ads, then pay $2. So, first of all, I'm always a huge fan of stuff like this. I mean, the main use of ROM carts for me is to try out games I might like, and very often they turn out to be crappy. That's why I just wanted a jailbroken everything, just so I could try stuff out before I buy it. But apparently it's getting mixed reviews. So this includes the Christian Whitehead Sonic games, which are all awesome, by the way. I've been playing I played a few on my Apple TV, and it was great. But it also includes a couple of others, which are apparently just ROMs dumped into an emulator that are laggy and not that good. So I guess it's a roll of the dice on which game you'd want to play, but at the very least, it's free, so try them out and see what you think. There's an update to the open source scan converter. Apparently, Video Game Perfection got in the version 1.6 and did audio testing on it. So now you're able to pump component video audio and VGA audio in through the 3.5mm ports, and the testing went great. There was no extra noise added, the analog to digital conversion was fine, so it looks like they'll be up for pre-order relatively soon, which is very cool because now they're trying the pre-order method rather than the mailing list method. So supposedly, as soon as it opens up, people could just go on and buy one, and then you'll get it whenever the stock arrives. I'm obviously a huge fan of this method. A lot of other people are not, but I wish them the best because that is by far my favorite upscaler, and I use it on a regular basis, both for gaming and for all of the reviews and testing that I do. Next, there's another very cool Game Gear to Master System hack. This one's made by BCN Abel, one of the hackers that's been putting out some great work over the years. And he took his time to really do as good of a conversion as possible. And just really quickly, for anybody just joining the podcast that doesn't know anything about the Game Gear to Master System, Game Gear games display at one resolution, but there's actually a wider resolution available to the game code. So these conversions both allow them to be played on a Master System. It also allows you to have more of the resolution available. And then there's a lot of times garbage in that extra resolution area because it wasn't needed to be displayed on the Game Gear. So these hackers will actually clean all that up and make it playable. There's also a color palette difference, which is the main reason that you can't have Game Gear games on a Genesis, because the color palettes just won't match up. So that's why they'll never be a Super Game Boy. But I've been following these conversions for years now. I'm a huge fan of them. Some of them are way more complete than others, and the ones that are complete are really great to play. So definitely check it out if you have any way of playing SMS ROMs and you like Sonic games. Someone just uploaded a video of them playing an augmented reality version of Super Mario Bros., of the first level of Super Mario Bros. Basically, they wrote a program that allows you to put on the virtual reality helmet and see the characters of Mario Bros. In front of you, and it looks awesome. He said it's just a proof of concept and not a game that he'll be selling, but he's considering sharing the code, and I just love stuff like this. I think as soon as we start to do more of these things, these virtual reality stuff that we've been doing will become even more relevant. So I'm always looking forward to trying different augmented reality stuff, and I think there's a Ghostbusters AR thing in New York that I haven't gotten around to yet. So hopefully I'll be able to do that and report back. Next, the president of Nintendo North America was interviewed and asked about fan games. And he said the line that they draw is when a fan game crosses the line of a tribute and actually goes into something that could be monetized. And then he was talking about AM2R, another Metroid 2 remake in that context, but they never tried to sell that, and when the person interviewing pressed them on it, he just kind of repeated the same thing. So on the one hand, it's very cool that Nintendo at least understands and respects these fan hacks, but I don't know where they're quite going with AM2R. Maybe they just saw how easy it was to port to different platforms because the creator had actually rewritten it in a language where you could spit it out for Android and other platforms, not just a ROM hack. But or maybe he didn't even really understand what it was. So hopefully that clears up a little bit of our thoughts of what Nintendo's stance on this is. I just really wish AM2R could have grown a little bit more. I would have loved to have seen Android ports and stuff like that. But maybe I'm proving Reggie's point by saying that. So I don't know. The article is linked in the description if you want to read it for yourself and make your own opinion. Next, somebody has just uploaded a video of an Atari 2600 AV demo. So it's basically just a demo cart, but it's playing video and audio on it, which is not anything I would ever expect a 2600 to be able to do. So definitely check it out. It's just worth watching for a few seconds just as a proof of concept. Well done, and that must have been a lot of hard work. A VRC7 mapper was just released for the EverDrive. Somebody on the Crix forums, I believe, made it themselves and posted it, and now you're able to put that in the folder, the correct folder on your EverDrive, and play games like Lagrange Point, I don't really know how to pronounce that, but it's very cool because it's expanding the capabilities of the EverDrive even more, and it's not even something Crix wrote, it's something a fan wrote. So definitely check it out if you want to play VRC7 games and you have an EverDrive. The creator of the Vera SNES project has just posted another update showing the progress that he's making, and it's looking like it's coming very close to being a fully functional FPGA SNES, which I believe would be the first of its kind. So while the progress is slow, it's very steady, and I'm definitely keeping up on the project, and I'll let anybody know when there's any other progress. Some even more SNES news. I've made a bit more progress into tracking down the white line issue, and more importantly, different ways to fix it. So this is information that we've been talking about for a while, but I figured I would mention it here in case you're not one of the people that we're following online. But basically, some SNESes have an issue where you just get a white line down the middle of the screen whenever there's a dark screen. And a couple of pretty interesting things that I found. If you're using an SD to SNES, the white line mostly isn't there. It's only on original games, and I believe that's because the power circuit on the SD to SNES has the correct buffering, so you don't get these issues. Also, if you do an RGB bypass, you still get the white line on composite video, but not on RGB. So that's why all those years of saying, well, the bypass fixes it, that would be why, because the circuit that you use has a correct power filter on it, so the RGB output wouldn't have it. I also tried Steve from HD Retrovision's fix of replacing the 7805 with a different one, and that absolutely worked. And he recommends that you do that over just adding the capacitor to it. And while it does work, there's still a little bit of a white line there, but it's a massive difference. It's not even close to the same thing. And to be honest, I'm not sure you would know it was there unless you were looking for it. So as of now, I'm recommending a different solution for different scenarios. If you have a SNES Mini with the white line, and you're really only going to be using RGB, I would suggest just doing the 7374 RGB mod to it, not the one with the internal encoder. And that way you just don't even have to worry about it. You could leave the whole rest of the SNES completely stock. It's a totally reversible mod, so if you're a preservationist, you don't have to worry about it, and you could just move along. If you have one of the bigger SNESes and it's a problem, I would recommend replacing the voltage regulator. I'll put a link in the description, and hopefully I'll have the SNES White line page redone by the time this podcast goes out, so that all the information will be there. But anyway, you could just do that, and that should fix, it should be just as good, if not better, than adding the cap, because you're kind of replacing something that's part of the main problem anyway. And if you're using a big SNES and you're doing an RGB bypass, so you have a 1-chip, 1, 2, or 3, it's really up to you. I think I personally would just do the RGB bypass and not bother with replacing the voltage regulator. But, I mean, you could do both. It certainly wouldn't hurt. I'd like to do more testing. If anybody has a 1-chip 01 or 02, I really would love to do more testing on those for this bypass, so please contact me and let me know. If you're in the US or if you're willing to spend money on international shipping and you have a 1-chip 01 or an 02, if you wouldn't mind sending it to me, I'll do the RGB bypass for you and use it for testing, and all I'm going to charge is shipping and the cost of Voltar's board, nothing else. I'll just do the work for free. I've done it with a few other people so far, so thanks to them for sending their consoles in, but I could really use 1 or 2 more just to confirm these findings, and hopefully just have solutions for each scenario for SNES White line stuff. Now onto the Q&A stuff. First, I've been talking to Firebrand X about trying to cure Saturn jailbars on a FrameMeister. So it's literally only that scenario. Obviously, there's other ways to get jailbars, but there are people that have shielded cables, they're using the correct cables, and no matter what, they still get jailbars sometimes. And Firebrand X thinks it might actually have to do with games that have different resolution modes. So he's going to give me a list of certain games that have that, and then hopefully we could go back and recheck them. I still don't have a FrameMeister. I'm still not a big fan of it. So if we publish the games that are having issues, it would be really cool if people could double check those and let us know what they think. So I'll post a link to the Shmups conversations that people were having, and hopefully by the time this airs, there'll be a little more progress. Next, Reagan Kelly posted a link to the latest EZFlash software that doesn't require you to flash the ROMs before putting them on the ROM cart. So the EZFlash IV was the GBA ROM cart that was pretty much the go-to ROM cart for years, but I couldn't stand it because you had to patch all the ROMs before putting them on, and it made doing things like ROM sets and collections just a royal pain. And that's the biggest reason I was so thrilled when Chris came out with his, just because you could dump all the ROMs on a card and go. Well, apparently, the team behind the EZFlash actually updated the firmware now, so all you do is put the ROMs on and they auto-patch as you load them. It's kind of sucks that it took this long to do it, and you could only speculate that the only reason they did it is because they lost all the sales to Crix carts. But at least if you have an old EZFlash card now, you don't have to worry about patching anymore. Next, a few people posted links to NES Classic and Famicom Classic Clones that are on AliExpress for pretty cheap. So I'm assuming it's just using the plastic of the actual NES clones and jamming like a Raspberry Pi or something in there, but at the very least, they're very cool cases that you could use. So I really hate taking original consoles and modifying them at all, but new throwaways like this, kind of a fun thing just to do whatever you want with. So thanks to Reed Solomon and Overdrive99 for sending the links. Okay, up next I have an interview with Chris from Hyperkin, but before I go any further, I just got to apologize for how bad that whole video audio situation just came out. Holy crap, I didn't realize how bad it was until I got into editing, but I couldn't reshoot everything because I wouldn't make the deadline date of, Wednesday podcast. So, yeah, I'm never going to do that again. I'm just going to stick to webcams unless I get a professional solution. I had no idea the video and audio was going out of sync and then back in and then out again. I can't even imagine what the heck happened. So sorry for that crap, guys. Please, I promise that'll be the last time you have to. That gave me a headache watching it. So, but anyway, on a much lighter note, here's an interview with Chris from Hyperkin. I gotta say, I was very surprised at how this went. This is not at all what I expected to hear, and I'm really happy that this is what Chris had to say, and I'm actually now excited about some of the things that they have coming up in the future. And that says a lot, because I wasn't really sure where I stood on Hyperkin. I generally didn't have the highest opinion of him, so either Chris is genuine and he's aiming them in a great direction, or he's an amazingly good liar. Either one, but I hope you guys enjoy the interview. It's not too long, and it sheds a lot of light on a whole bunch of different things. So, please give it a chance, and as always, any comments and criticism, post down below. I love hearing from you. Thanks so much to the Patreons, because as always, I couldn't do this stuff without you guys, and I'll see you next week. Hey guys, I'm here with Chris from Hyperkin. How's it going?
Good. Yourself? Thanks for inviting me, man.
Yeah, good. Thanks for coming on. So, there's a bunch of questions I wanted to ask you, but obviously, you're at work doing your job. But before I get into any of that, do you think you can give us just like a really short description of what it is that Hyperkin does? Because on their website, there's a ton of products, and they even advertise that they resell other people's. I know a lot of stuff is done in-house, so can you kind of give us an overview of what exactly Hyperkin is?
Definitely. So Hyperkin itself is a third-party manufacturer for video games, accessories, and hardware. So that ranges all the way from of course, retro or even legacy-based stuff, all the way up into modern. Recently we partnered up with Microsoft to make a controller for them. So we're moving forward in that sense, and we're even touching bases on VR. So that's kind of Hyperkin in a nutshell. We are a manufacturer, but we're also a wholesaler. So as you probably know, we sell to stores. We sell to also directly to customers on our select site, which is like hyperkinlabs.com.
Gotcha. And how do you decide which products that you sell direct and not? Is it just a support thing?
Yeah, it's kind of like more of support. So like more of our experimental stuff kind of goes direct to consumer. Like for example, we made the Smart Boy with Samsung, so it's kind of it's more of a smaller market than even what we're used to. So like that's experimental. The VR stuff is definitely still experimental and stuff like that. So the Retron HD, because it's our first time going into like a hardware-based high-def console, that was experimental. So we try everything out there first and see how the response is, and then if it goes well, then we release it to the partners to sell.
Gotcha. So it's things like the Virtual Boy stand and headset. I mean, that really caught my eye because nobody was providing that solution for anybody. But that's partner only. That's not direct, right?
That's correct. The reason why is it's a very limited quantity in what we had to produce, just because we got metal legs and stuff like that. So it was something that we only could produce in small batches, and we were actually our partners were more worried that consumers would buy it directly, so they kind of just requested like, hey, can it just be direct only for wholesale only? So.
Gotcha. And what exactly is your role at Hyperkin? How long have you been there? You were the one that got tagged online a lot with all the Retron 5 stuff, which is why I knew to talk to you. So
I guess the best way to put it is Hyperkin kind of likes me to use me as like their spokesperson in a sense. But my key role here is I run R&D. So the R&D department is my responsibility. And at the same time, I assist with product management. So those are the two key areas I'm in, and that's the gist of it. And besides, of course, doing interviews and some press and things, just because our marketing department feels more confident if I'm in front of the camera than themselves.
Gotcha. I want to give you a very, very quick background on myself, just to understand where I'm coming from. So I'm obviously a huge nerd, always into retro gaming stuff. And a couple of years ago, I tried to go back and get the best quality out of my SNES, which led me to realize there's no repository for information anywhere on the internet. So I ended up creating RetroRGB as a place for people to permanently, forever leave info on what's the best way to get the best both audio and video out of your consoles, which is why I'm so critical of everything out there now. It's just because I've dedicated so much of my time doing it. But my day job is actually IT and tech-based, and I had a job for over 6 years where I spent almost half the time in Taiwan at the R&D facility, at the Chinese manufacturing. So it was a hardware manufacturing company. So while of course, I guess the best way to describe myself is I'm an expert in nothing, but know just enough about everything to be dangerous.
Trust me, your expertise is very valuable. Like, especially in the market that myself and my R&D team works in. Like, we find like we have frequented your website multiple times just to see what people are talking about and stuff like that, because that's just the nature of our business. We got to know what people want, and even though sometimes we can't deliver on that for various reasons, we do try to see what we can do in a very quid pro quo mentality with our management. So
gotcha. It's cool to hear that. So that's perfect, and that brings me to how I got in touch with you. I just reviewed the Retron 1 HD, but I reviewed it from the perspective of the people that would follow my site, people that are out there chasing the best quality you can get, and really just wanting a way to play NES in HD. And from that perspective, I genuinely felt that it fell short. I believe it was your old, or it was the old NES on a chip, using the LVDS output into just a basic upscaler. Is that correct?
So you are correct in the sense that we are using like an NOAC. Mm-hmm. However, we did modify it slightly than what we originally put in our Retron 1. So we did do some modifications internally on it. And in terms of the upscale board, we are using a variation of an FPGA to do the signal. Unfortunately, I can't go, like, I recently just saw your video after I agreed to interview. I was like, I should probably watch the video. So I was like, okay. So yeah, like for example, like the scratching of the chip, that's just more for our competitors, so that way they don't try to isolate what chip we're using and stuff like that. Because that, believe it or not, is a really common thing between us and our competitors, to knowing like what kind of chips and stuff like that is going on. So.
Well, I mean that's kind of why I brought up the whole doing business over in the Southeast Asia, because I know exactly what goes on there. So that's completely understandable.
Sure.
So I guess so from that perspective, it really was just taking your Retron 1 and then just basically adding the HDMI stuff. What did you guys look into when you were trying to do that? Because were you trying to aim for a cheap product? And I mean that in a good way. I mean, like, are you looking to put out the most inexpensive way to get NES on a HD TV, or did you guys explore different ways to try to get high quality solutions out?
So if you want, we can actually go through kind of like the process that we went through.
I would love that. Yeah.
Okay, great. So originally, the NES Classic came out, and we were bombarded by requests from partners, small and big, ranging from the mom and pop retro store all the way up to, like, as an example, like GameStop, Target, because our name is affiliated with retro. So, they did reach out and like, hey, do you have a high def Nintendo solution? And we're like, well, we have something on the back burner, but it's not ready, because we were going along the lines of something a little bit more premium, because as we both know, like the AVS and the analog are beautiful pieces of machinery that definitely cater to the quality standards of your community. And that was like our goal at one point. Like, we want to at least have, because we've kind of dominated like the middle market, low end market in terms of these type of systems. So, but we're still missing that high end market. And we really want to aim for, at least the R&D team, we really want to, like, we can do this, and we can do it at a price point that's competitive to like an AVS. So that's where it started off. And then we started talking to like our partners, and it was like, well, how would you feel about like maybe $130, $140 system? Like, no, that, we can't do that. We can't stock it. And then, slowly, but little by little, as months progressed, we started winging down some of the components and some of our expectations to meet a more price-friendly version that stores would be willing to stock. So, and that's where we got to the point of where the Retron HD is. And as you know, like, for example, like definitely in the high-end community, comparing it to the AVS or anything like that, like, you really can't. Those are just like, that's just high bar standard right there. So for us, we like for other people that like recommended the system, like the key thing that they recommended, I think even yourself was saying that, this is great for like the lowest end form of introduction to NES if you wanted to play it on your high def TV or your flat screen. And that eventually, that's where our goal from high end went all the way down to where we are today. And that's like, in our company's eyes, definitely the console's a success, because it is selling, it is doing well on the consumer standpoint, especially in the mass market, which it was aimed at. So that was kind of like the cycle in which it came from. We did want to do this really high-end thing, even take a poke at the analog and do like an aluminum shell and everything like that, like mill it out. But it was just, in the end, it was more of a decision to not do that.
Gotcha.
Without burning a few bridges here at the office.
No, I hear you, and I completely understand that perspective. One of the things we designed at my company was this amazing feature-filled thing, and our biggest customer said, this is exactly what we want, pull everything out except the touchscreen. It's like, oh, come on! So, exactly. But I mean, I get it. Your customers dedicate your product, or dictate your product, so it's,
yes.
So are there still plans for higher-end products then, to try to fill that middle ground?
I can't go into too much detail.
No, of course,
But we are going to be unveiling something at CES this year, and we're definitely in the midst of. It's going to be probably too premium, just because now that management is happy with what R&D is capable of, they're kind of like, all right, here's your Halo project, or here's the one thing that if it doesn't make money, fine, but like, you can do it. So we are pulling out all the stops on our next product.
That's really great to hear. I do have to ask a couple harder questions, though, because my listeners would just rake me over the coals if I didn't.
You know what? I'll answer them to the best of my ability.
Yeah, well, you guys do have a history of announcing products that have a very long time before they see the light of day. Like the TurboGrafx 16 handheld. I mean, like, that's not out yet. That was, there's a lot of. Are you guys going to announce something with a hard target date, or is it just going to be a loose announcement like some of the previous?
No, we're going to be doing things a little bit different. Like, as you know, like the Retron HD, we didn't advertise it prior to it launching. So we've learned from our mistakes in that sense, like, especially working with bigger companies like Microsoft, we're working with Vive. They have a very strict presence that we have to follow. So, like, if we're going to tease it, they expect it launched within 6 months. So because of that, that discipline that they require from us, we're learning from that. So
gotcha.
Previously we were using like, ways of gauging public interest, like, hey, let's show, like, for example, the TurboGrafx handheld remake that we're doing, and let's see if there's even a market for it. We're getting to the point where we're more confident in our research, and we can be like, all right, we don't even have to tease it, we're just going to make it and we're going to launch it. So without having to tease the public in a sense.
Gotcha. Just to go back to the Retron 1 HD for a minute, a
Please.
few of the things that, one of the things that I meant to test, and then I got impatient and ripped the glob top off by accident and ruined it, so I'll be buying another one of those. So you got two sales from me on this one. But one of the things I did not get a chance to test was the lag. So all I could have is my subjective testing. But that's one of the things that, for whatever crazy reason, I'm very sensitive to. Before I even really knew that there was, understood that there was lag, and I didn't seem to find that much on there. Did you guys go through testing to make sure that that was reduced?
Yeah, for example, like some of the things that we did to make sure that we improved from our Retron 1, our original version was, of course, not only lag, but also compatibility. Like our original Retron was able to play like Castlevania, stuff like that. So we were more focused on those type of things. And I recall there was a huge argument over the palette internally of like what we were doing and stuff like that. It was a huge argument. Like at one point, like our China office refused to take my phone call because of how pissed off we are. Because there comes a time, because sometimes we take things personally more than we should. So, but the palette that we were trying to get, which just wasn't possible in time of when we promised the ship date to the customers to finish it. So after we did the QCing and all the R&D, there was multiple prototypes with different palettes, and the ones that we wanted just could not be done in time. So, and of course, the added R&D cost was a huge benefactor to, at least on management, saying, Chris, shut up. So,
Gotcha. So, but was lag actually something that you guys tested and went through while you were doing the R&D for it?
Our China side office did. That was not our R&D side's responsibility, but yeah, that was something that was tested on their end. So.
Did they were they able to pull out any hard numbers? Because the test that I was going to do was basically it's a NES controller with an LED light hooked up, and then you put a slow motion camera in front of it, and what I was able to do was it's definitely under 2 frames of lag without a doubt. I think it's actually less than a frame. Did you guys numbers match up with that?
From our internal R&D stuff, it was around what you're saying, but if you want really hard facts, I can actually send you some of our test reports.
Yeah, so that'd be pretty awesome. As long as you're allowed to send that over. Yeah, that would be neat just to see what that's like.
Well, I won't send you the whole test report.
No, just screenshot of that one little snippet, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I can definitely do that. I don't think they'll crucify me over here for that. So.
Gotcha. Now, was there a reason that the ROM cart won't work? Is that just a side effect of the Nintendo on a chip, or is that something that you guys, a block that you put in?
It's not a block that we put in. So coincidentally, what we do for testing, like, with flash cards and stuff like that, it's kind of a hit or miss. Like we have an EverDrive obviously for testing and stuff like that. And the EverDrive version that we have in China works fine. But the EverDrive version that we have here sometimes works or doesn't work.
Interesting.
So, yeah, exactly. And I think it's just more of the, what's the best way of putting it? Maybe the EverDrive version that's being used in China is not 100% legit. However they got a hold of theirs may not be the same way we got from Crix.
Or it's a different revision or something.
Correct.
Crix does update his, regularly, so.
Correct.
Interesting.
So there's several variables to it. So that we're still trying to figure out.
The controller that it came with, you guys actually have a reputation of making very good third-party controllers. I think
to some extent, sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I believe, your 6-button Genesis one. A few people that are very finicky about these things, as I am to lag, they are to controllers, actually recommend them. Maybe I got a bum one, because we all know when you're going through, runs of thousands on a plastic tooling, we all know what could happen. But I actually found the right stick on the D-pad to kind of sometimes act as if I had taken my finger off. Is that something that's just
peculiar?
Yeah, I mean,
I like to assume you got a bum one, but because from everyone else, like including our partners and also people online, actually from the people that don't like the Retron HD, the one thing that they do like about it is usually the controller. So I was actually pretty surprised to hear that from your feedback. So
yeah, me too, because you guys, that was the last thing I expected. And I even said in the review the controller was pretty comfortable. I kind of liked the bumps you put on the back for that.
Correct. We want to make something a little bit more ergonomic, something with more modern flair. And, we want, like, in a sense, like, cut out the corner side so that way it's just not digging into your palms. So
Yeah, actually, I didn't. I was gonna ask you that as well. Was that aesthetic or was that something for comfort? But I guess that's for comfort then.
It was actually more for comfort, and then aesthetically, we're like, oh hey, this kind of looks like our packaging already. So
Gotcha. One thing I did forget to mention in the review is you put a long cable on that controller, which is always appreciated these days, especially because people generally sit farther back from the TV. So
definitely, and especially with the Super NES Classic coming out, that's only like I think a 5-foot cable. So
yeah. So the other thing that I have to ask, because it's been one of those things that sometimes it's blown out of proportion, sometimes it's not. But what exactly happened with the whole Retron 5 and putting the emulation software on there?
So what I can tell you from our end is, so the way that the Retron 5 was developed, hardware wise, is what Hyperkin's known for. We're known for hardware.
Mm-hmm.
Software is definitely something that we don't necessarily say we're amazing at. Mm-hmm. So the company that we branched out to do the software side did talk to, like they were in charge of handling everything. And legally, Hyperkin side, we of course have our own due processes set up so that way whoever this third-party company is, they make sure that they submit legit software that they say themselves created. So unfortunately, after, and this is the reason why there has been really no issue on Hyperkin side in terms of legality, is the fact that the third-party company that developed the software for us admitted fault. And because they admitted fault, it indemnified Hyperkin from the sense of it. So because of that, unfortunately, we know not to trust third-party software houses to develop our stuff anymore. So, like, for our current projects coming up, we do have an in-house software house now that we have. We have a programmers and stuff like that now. So we learned from that mistake. But in terms of detail, that's as far as I can go. The fact
it makes sense.
So
that was the thing that makes a lot of sense to me, because it did strike me as odd that would have happened, especially because you guys are known for retro gaming, and also because the team behind that, if you had just gone out there and said, hey, we're going to make a product using their software, I don't know any of them personally, but based on how I've seen them over the years, they probably would have been ecstatic about that if it was done in reverse. So that's why it always kind of struck me as odd, but that does make sense.
So, like, for example, I could disclose right now, like, our Retron 77 that we're making, we've actually licensed Stella through its author. So, like, we've already paid the guy his money, and he's definitely helping us out with it. We've already purchased the rights to Higgin. So, like, normally this is how we do things. It's just unfortunate the way that it happened, because when I started working here about 4.5 years ago, it was already midway through development of the Retron 5. Mm-hmm. So because of that, right now I handle all licensing. Mm-hmm. So I think if I were there 5 years ago, I think we could have avoided this whole issue, because I could have looked at the software, I could have looked at the source code. Unfortunately, the product manager before me was, I guess you would say, lazy in that aspect, and he didn't do that.
Gotcha.
He just assumed, well, we have a letter of indemnification, so if they did do anything, it doesn't harm us. So.
It's a very business way of doing things. Like, well, it's not our problem legally, so whatever. So,
and for me, I'm not here to piss off anyone. So.
Gotcha. Now, did you, in any of the literature on the Retron 77, mention that it's off of a licensed Stella?
Yeah. So actually, if you go to like Atari Age, like we actually opened up discussion with the community to let them know what version we're using. So we're using a closed source version of Stella. I believe it's 1.0. And we've already disclosed which version we're doing. And then once the project gets more solidified, of course, based upon contract, because it is a closed source version, mm-hmm. We don't have to disclose source code because it's closed. But the code that we did update, like, mm-hmm. for example, like for cartridge reading and stuff like that, we will be releasing that for the community to toy with and play with if they want to.
Now, I'm obviously not a marketing guy, so, but it's my opinion that stuff like this is nothing but positive for absolutely everybody involved. Positive for you guys, positive for the the community. So I don't know how I missed that, because I'm on Atari Age, so I do skip a lot of the 2600 stuff, because there's a lot of really deep dev things in there. But now I feel like an idiot for missing it, because that's awesome. That's the type of stuff that we like to hear.
It went live during E3, because that's when we unveiled the Retron 77.
Right.
So So at that, like you said, if you get a chance, go check out Atari Age. Go to the 2600 forums, the ones that you don't want to go to, and yeah, go ahead. We have our developer Hyperkin email link to it, so all emails go to me and my other R&D members. So we answer all questions for the most part, as direct as we can.
Wow, that's very cool. So, was there a target release date for that? Because a lot of the people that covered the Retron 77, I guess I don't want to say it got lost in the midst of it, but, there was like a quick article here and there, and I think you said the fall or the winter, right?
Right now, it's more towards winter. Like, we're looking at either Q4 or Q1 of this year, but that's depending, of course. A lot of people from Atari have given us a lot of great ideas. Like, they're like, we know you're using a closed source version of Atari, but is there a way we can upgrade to the most current version of Stella? So, and we're just like, well, legally we have to check about that, because we don't want this, since we're doing the development now of software, we don't want it to be a slap in the face like what happened like with the Retron 5, because we got to make sure all contributors are in somehow either rewarded or at least given permission to use what they've contributed.
Gotcha.
So that's more of a bigger task. So that's varying on that.
So will this? You said it'll play cartridges, but would this play ROMs as well?
So, like for example, we one of the things that Atari Age kept on asking is like, will this work with a Harmony card? So we did order several Harmony cards, and we're currently testing. So we're figuring out compatibility, because some of the bin files are working, some aren't. So we're trying to figure out why or why not that's not working. So before we release what we're doing to the public, we got to make sure, like from a legal standpoint, we can even release that portion of the source code, because, like I said, we did license a closed source version. So.
Gotcha. Now, does Hyperkin have any official stance on ROMs or anything like that? Because there's certainly a majority feel in the community. Even the people that are I guess historians are the best way to put it, are very pro ROM for all the old stuff, nothing new and current, obviously.
We kind of don't have a stance. Like, we definitely respect the idea that you should be playing your backups legally. Mm-hmm. That's something that we definitely have to. We not only promote, but we think it just adds to the retro experience. But like anything else, we're retro fans. So if that's your only means of playing retro games, we're not here to judge you. So.
Right, but I mean, as far as possibly supporting SD cards on any future products and stuff like that.
That way. Unfortunately, we can't do that, at least not at the moment. And that's just more of, as an example, would be if we put like an SD card on the Retron HD, like I said, as a fair example, that may just open us up to more questions from like Nintendo or something like that, and we just kind of don't want to go down that route.
Gotcha. And companies certainly have had a history of, like with ISOs and Blu-ray players. One very big name company opened it up, and the movie industry basically said, well, there's nothing we can do to you, but we can cut off all your funding for this other thing. And, so yeah, that is always a legit concern. I was just wondering if you guys had an official stance on that, but I guess it's probably similar to the community, because,
It is similar in that sense, but like I said, officially we can't make a stance.
Right.
So.
Gotcha. So is there anything else coming up? Anything that you want people to know? Because depending on which products people bought from you, there's definitely a very paralyzing view of the company. If you happen to get a Virtual Boy stand and the 6-button controller, people absolutely, go nuts for it. But if you were, if you bought the wrong thing at the wrong time or were waiting on something, people seem to have a negative opinion. Is there, other than all the positive stuff that you've already talked about, is there anything that you'd want people to know as somebody from the inside who sees how things work?
I know, and this is something that I realized at E3. I've been going to E3 every year with Hyperkin for close to 5 years, and for some reason people had a connotation on us that we're this big giant company. Our R&D team size consists of 4 people, so it's quite small in that sense here in the U.S. office. So definitely I know there's some people that don't like how we or what we've done or what we're doing at the moment, but I can assure you that we're doing the best we can under our certain circumstances. And now that the company has gotten to a certain level, we are now switching from more of a mass production house to more of like limited quantity solution house now, where we focus solely not only on quality, but we're also going to be mostly focused on what the community's gathering from us, because we're starting to do stuff with Xbox and Vive, and like those type of projects are what's going to pay the bills. So now that those type of projects are paying the bills, we can definitely focus more money on retro and what we'd like to actually do here in terms of like what we're passionate about. So
that's awesome. That's good to hear, because there's definitely there's definitely a need and a desire for mid-range products. You know.
Yeah, that's our goal. Like I said, we've kind of dominated the low end, entry level, like mid market, and now our goal is to get into the mid market and almost the high end market. So, and we're at the point where we can start doing some of these low quantity projects and not worry that it doesn't sell.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I mean, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, and I certainly have a different opinion of Hyperkin as a whole, and I hope that everybody watching does as well. So you certainly said a lot of things that I personally wanted to hear, and I'm actually excited to see what you guys have coming out.
And by all means, Bob, like, you can DM me wherever you want, and I have no problem jumping on anytime in the future if you ever want to talk about a certain subject or anything like that. So
awesome, cool. Thanks very much. Anybody comments down below? I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts on this, and I'll see everybody next week.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Bye.